What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Happy hump day, midweek show. Here to talk about a little 8-gamer down toward the end of the season, last couple of days, but we're still here, still sticking it out, fighting the good fight, getting the content done, albeit a little bit late in the day the last 2 days. I'll try and clean that up the next couple of days. We've got football coming up tomorrow with a single gamer. We'll have football projections up on the site tonight. First cut of projections and rankings will go up tonight at some point. We'll have all the content for the single gamer tomorrow. Going to try and knock out a show for the main slate tomorrow during the day, I think. So a lot going on, even though the baseball season's ending. A lot still happening here at Roto Scouts. We've got Poe DJ and Stoner in the chat. We've got Trey hanging out, talking Pearl Jam. Apparently Trey was only 5 in 1992. Pearl Jam's been around for a while, though. You've had time to catch up in between. You're missing out if you're not listening. Poe DJ says you're fine. I just woke up a couple minutes ago. Hey, join the club, buddy. I took a nice afternoon nap after being up all of last night again. So went a little bit later than I intended. I was going to get up at I finally went to sleep at 10:30, 11 in the morning. And I was going to get up at 1:30, and it just kind of pushed out by a little bit more than that. So we're still caffeinating. We're still digging into this slate a little bit. We're going to do a kind of a tour through, take a look through everything, peel back the onion a little bit. Power says Dame Lillard to the Bucks. How in the hell? Yeah, big trade there. Obviously a monster get for the Bucks. Kind of changes a lot of narratives around the NBA for teams like the Knicks that were saying, oh, maybe Giannis wants to leave and blah, blah, blah. Don't think that's going to be happening now, at least now that they got a little bit competitive over there. Interesting deal, sending Drew out of town. Apparently the Phillies, the Sixers apparently want to get in on Drew now and acquire Drew Holiday, which would be an interesting pickup for them. Bring Drew back to Philly. And then there's the Embiid question in Philly. So that leaves him basically as the big guy out there now, not necessarily happy, maybe looking for a new location. This was literally less than 24 hours after a big article in the Post saying, oh, the Knicks are primed to get one of these guys. Oh, it wasn't even the Post. It was on the Ringer. Lot of chatter about that. But yeah, big trade, obviously. I woke up and saw that. I was like, holy shit. How long have I been asleep? Salty old man's here. Salty was sucking tequila out of strippers' belly buttons in 92. Damn, you're young. Lone Wolf's here. What's up, Lone Wolf? Calvin, Kevin O. So an interesting little 8-gamer. Whoops. Interesting little 8-gamer on deck today. Let me get this. This is how ready to roll out was. Hang on one sec. I actually completely forgot to finish setting up the screen. Just got so excited to jump on and talk to you guys. I just hit the go live button. Screen share. There we go. And bing. All right. Righto. Okay, we're back. So it's an interesting slate. A lot of pitching. Very high peak on the pitching board. 3 legitimate aces going. Couple really good, usable mid-board pitchers through here. And then it just kind of dies. It's just kind of a lot of guys you don't really want. But I like this swath for an 8-game slate. That's not bad. That's 9 pitchers. All those guys are pretty usable. Ricky Lee says, haven't posted often here, but thank you, Terry, for a lot throughout the season. Let's end strong, transition to NFL NBA. Sounds like a plan, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thanks to everybody who hangs out. You don't have to chat to be valued here. You know, just coming and hanging out and watching. Hitting the like button helps. But definitely, we love the people who chat and talk. It helps me get through the shows. It definitely makes it a little bit more dynamic than sitting here listening to me read lists of numbers. But yeah, a lot of people just come in and hang out, try and get the info, maybe get a little entertainment, I don't know. But yeah, a lot of people come and just kind of chill and don't do a lot of talking. But yeah, good to hear from you, Ricky, and I appreciate that, buddy. Pochigen says, wasn't even 21 yet, but Florida is Florida. D's here. What's up, D? Just in time. Happy hump day. Vic needs a sneaky pitcher tonight. Sneaky, eh? Is Sean Manaea sneaky against San Diego? A little strikeout upside there. Zach Thompson sneaky against Milwaukee, maybe? He's very, very cheap. Give him that. Projects out all right. Frederick Jude says, come for the MLB DFS stats, stay for the random film chat. For sure. We definitely go down some movie tangents. Given endless time in the world, I'd love to do a movie podcast, but there's only so many hours in the day, and I am not filling out the things I've already promised, let alone adding another one. Vic says single entry has his eyes on Manaea. Yeah, I think that's an interesting spot. I mean, out of the guys like through the middle that are not overly priced, not crazy popular, he's probably got the highest strikeout upside. Even against San Diego, it's a danger lineup, obviously, with the stars up at the top of that lineup, but he's perfectly capable of getting through those guys, and he does have big-time strikeout upside on the right day. Canning and Dunning have both cracked a couple decent games through the season. They both project out fairly well. Facing each other in kind of a battle for the title of like the best pitcher in the middle of baseball. Not the best pitcher in baseball. Those are very different things. But those guys are like, to me, like the exact midpoint of like, you're pretty good, but you're not like top end, but you're not bad. It's just like right smack in the middle of the board. They're priced like it. They project like it, facing one another. Somebody's coming out with the title belt. Bryce Miller, I like a lot. Terrible matchup. Joey Estes, disaster first outing going up against the Twins. Twins project great against him. Darius Vines, I don't think we're getting a ton of depth. Went like 3 1/3, I want to say, in the last outing, in his first outing. Emmett Sheehan, it's probably way too cute to go there to Colorado. Very good, talented pitcher, but dicey. And then all these guys. So, yeah, I would probably look at that Manaea one. And if not that, I would consider Thompson. We'll talk about him. And then either Canning or Dunning, probably. I know I just named the 4 guys who aren't the 4 obvious big-name aces on the board when you ask for a sneaky pitcher. But that's kind of how this one falls. It is a very straightforward pitching slate. Runs-wise, the big meatball right there. 7.5 runs for the Dodgers out in Coors Field. Obviously a little bit important. The Rockies on the other side, the second highest total in that game. So we can see a lot of impact from the cooler temps on some of these run totals now. Some 7s, some 8s, some really low run totals. Only the Braves over 5 outside of Coors Field. You've got Texas at 4.9 is obviously appealing. 4.7 for the Twins, appealing. But yeah, this Coors Field game is soaking up a lot of the offensive upside right now. It's going to get crazy popular out there, I think. Good pitching matchup to start us off in Toronto. Garrett Cole against Jose Barrios. Starting on Barrios' side, 8,699. Pretty good pricing for a pitching matchup with a talented guy going up against the flawed Yankees. Aaron Judge back in the lineup. That's a little bit of a bump to the Yanks, obviously. But I do think there's potential for Jose Barrios. He projected, 4th or 5th on the board there? For that money, he's got upside. He's got the potential to strike out a solid handful beyond what he normally does. He's a 23% strikeout pitcher over 31 starts, 183 and 2/3 innings this season. 3.58 ERA with a 4.07 xFIP, a 6.5% whip, 6.5% walk rate, 1.18 whip. Giving up a little bit in terms of home runs, but more incidental home runs. He's not getting tattooed in terms of hard hits. Exit velo is fine. Just a few few barrels, few wrong trajectory kind of balls. It's a significant sample. I'm not saying it's totally incidental, but this is a non-tragic number. It's just skews high for the limited premium contact. 10.9% swing, 29.4% CSW. He's been the good Jose Barrios for most of this season. And then Garrett Cole on the other side, 200 innings, 32 starts, 27.4% strikeout rate, 2.75 ERA, 3.55 xFIP. Contender for the Cy Young Award. The one good thing going on with the Yankees this year, or one of the very few. 1.02 whip, it's pretty spectacular. 6.1% walks. The walks are up year over year. The strikeouts are down. Well, actually, he's wrangled the walks a little bit. They were up a little. So the strikeouts are down about 5 percentage points year over year. 3 percentage points of swinging strike rate down. But he's also cut the home runs. Hasn't really had that blippy home run issue that much this year. So that's a plus. We know that we're getting a very high-end pitcher for our money. He doesn't project out at the top of the board. He projects a significant handful of points, or not crazy significant, but 5 or 6 points behind who was it at the top? Frommer? No, it's 9, more than 10 points behind Pablo. So it is fairly significant. You'd normally expect Cole to be up in the mid-30s here. A little bit of a challenge from the Blue Jays lineup, cutting into his projection a little bit. More than I expected, honestly. I don't think that sends us running from Cole. But given that there are other pitchers on the board that project out very well, given how high priced he is, it's another situation where he is going to have to go out there and pitch a very, very good game to pay off that price relative to where some of these other guys are priced for DFS purposes. Has a chance to go out and post a very clean start. Maybe a couple of runs, handful of strikeouts, or maybe just some clean innings. Let's see. 9 strikeouts last time out against this same Toronto lineup. 2-hitter. Give up a run. 8 innings. I don't know that they push him to 8. I mean, no reason really not to, other than just protect the arm going into the end of the season. But 6, 7, 8 innings, somewhere in there. 6, 7 innings, most likely. Something like his start on the 5th. 7 strikeouts, a run, 8 hits. Or more, maybe more the start on the 30th. 7 strikeouts, 2 runs. And that one he gave up 2 home runs, though. 4 hits. I think we all know that we're getting a very good shot at a good start here with Garrett Cole. Let's put it that way. Excellent shot at the quality start bonus, where that matters on FanDuel. The win, a lot more in question. Obviously, the Yanks got to come through. Their lineup, a couple good options in there, but it's really not looking great in terms of stacking today. They're always playable. 5th on the board. Good value marks. Anytime Judge gets back in there, we do get an uptick from the Yanks in terms of the average, the value marks. But he carries so much weight in that lineup. You can see it in the coloring of the dots. He's the only green dot on the board. But Judge, Torres, Stanton, that part of the lineup, those 3 guys in particular, obviously you get premium upside for power out of Judge and out of Stanton. Glaber's having a year that should be discussed more, but it's not because the Yankees are terrible. 25 homers, 13 steals, a 123 WRC+. Strikeouts at 14.8% after being at 22.6 last year. Very, very good option at second base. 4,300, 3,200. These 2 are the priorities. Then I go to Stanton. LeMahieu works as a correlated scoring option, but only a 325 on base this year, exactly at league average for run creation, so he's not really doing that job all that well. He's cheap. He plays 3 positions on FanDuel. He hits ahead of one of the best hitters in all of baseball and the Yankees' power core here, but DJ's been pretty weak. Esteban Florial, good spot in the lineup, 2,400, 2,500. Not totally uninteresting over his 53 plate appearances and 95 WRC+. He scored 4 times, 7 ribbies, 2 steals, yet to homer. Not really doing it all that consistently, but the 340 on base is appealing. If he gets on, if he's running, you have the upside that he does have power, that he is a good bat, or should be a good bat, has raked in the minors the last couple of years. Volpe, 39-26, got the night off last night. 21 homers, 24 steals, 85 WRC+, in a mixed bag of a rookie year. Oswaldo Cabrera, not a major league hitter. Oswald Peraza, Hasn't been a major league hitter really yet. 2 home runs, 4 steals, 197, 276, 280 over 174 plate appearances. He's very cheap. He also fills 3 positions on FanDuel. A lot less valuable on DK at third base. You don't really want that hitter, that kid trying to find his form in the show, at third base, hitting 8th. I can make a bit of an argument for it if he was hitting like 2nd today, but even then it would still be a weak play. But the compound facts of him hitting at the bottom of the lineup and chewing up your third base shares, just a weak play. Ben Rodvet, more here for defense behind the plate. Does have 2 home runs in 75 plate appearances, but a 109, 240, 219 triple slash. Not great. Jeremy Savage, no, we're not set up for super chats. I got to look into that at some point, see how to do that stuff, but not right now. But I appreciate the thought, the gesture, or the suggestion, whatever that might have been. Fanatic, do you think they start pulling good starters a little early for the teams headed to the playoffs? Yeah, it's not the craziest idea to think that, hey, 5 innings, thanks a lot. Come take a seat, rest up for your bigger start next week, especially the teams that have it locked in, obviously. So, yeah, not the craziest thing in the world, but sometimes there are pitchers who just like, hey, don't screw with my rhythm, just leave me alone. Let me go out there and pitch my 6 innings if I can. Take me out if I'm struggling, but let me get my 6. Otherwise, it screws me up down the rest of the week. My arm's not right. So, pitchers are weird. So, I do think it is a thing, but I don't think it's universal or something that we can necessarily apply unless we've got some manager speak around it. So, a little rough there. Mama says locked in Arizona stacks last night, and they all get pinched. Arizona went off like crazy last night. Yeah, a lot of Christian Walker. He had a 60-something point night. I didn't actually notice that they all got that they came out of the game. What with the monster scores they posted. I had a decent day yesterday. I had a ton of chasers, ton of lineups in like the top 100. There were a lot of Arizona stacks. Some Twins around them. Just fell short. Pissed me off. But like the lineups I had entered. Jeremy Savage, you got me on Detmers. Took down the 55 on FanDuel. Nice, dude. That's awesome. Congrats. Was trying to give back. Don't worry about it. We'll get you sometime. We'll get you guys something to pay for at some point. Mama says, tell me about it. All my lineups finished in 45th. Yeah, it's about where I fell to. I think my high was somewhere in the 20s. But yeah, it was like stacking up. So many lineups. You're like, we're only in the 5th inning in that game. I'm only like 15 points off the lead. We're going to cruise. And then it's just like, that's the crazy part with baseball. Still is tough to figure through with like every other sport, especially with basketball. Like, basketball is just a race of everything, and everything does keep piling up unless, like, a guy comes out of the game or whatever. If you're 10 points off the lead in basketball and nobody ahead of you's got anybody left and you've got a guy left, you got a shot, right? You can expect that guy's going to do something out there. It's rare that a guy will play a full quarter and put up a total 0. But baseball, yeah, you could have an entire game left and 4 guys from it. And just not move at all in the standings. It's amazing. Vic says the only thing I took down was the old lady. Nice, Vic. Mama says it's because they all got pinched. I didn't even realize. I did not. I didn't have the game on. I was just kind of watching scores. But yeah, I didn't notice that. No Christian Yelich tonight for the Brewers. So Blue Jays side. Especially with Cole not giving up any home run, or not any, but especially with Cole wrangling the home run problem and just pitching as well as he has. Maybe he's not the elite strikeout artist that he was just as recently as last year, but he's pitching really, really well. Not a pitcher I really like to tangle with. The Blue Jays, not exactly discounted up at the top. Those prices have been a little bit cheap for those guys all year because they haven't really been performing like themselves. We're not getting a further discount on that by any means. Toronto ranks 11th by fantasy points, 11th on FanDuel by value, 13th on DK by value. They do land 7th by home runs because you've got Vladdy and Bo and George Springer there. A little bit from Matt Chapman. It's a lighter hitting day outside of the Dodgers at Coors Field. But I think the Blue Jays, a little bit on the board for individual pop, I guess. But overall, it's a difficult stack to justify in my mind, given where they cost, given the matchup. Springer's a star, 4,700, 3,100, but only a 104 WRC plus, 21 homers, 20 steals, 257, 328, 405 for him this year. Doesn't strike out a lot, but not hitting the ball all that hard. 8% barrel rate, 39.8% hard hit. The barrel's about the same as last year. The hard hits are down a little bit, but just not an overall total George Springer type season, which is why he's a little bit cheap. Bo Bichette, 51, 32, 304, 336, 471, a 122 WRC plus, 20 homers. These numbers looked similar-ish and higher a couple of months ago. After that injury, he really didn't come back quite the same and didn't have the same second half as that outrageously good early part of the season that he had. 51-32, great price for that player at that position, but not in this matchup. That's where I'm saying, like, against 85% of the other pitchers in baseball, these would be good prices on these hitters. Right now, they're just kind of average because of the matchup. Vladdy for 48-36. Tough to argue with Vlad Guerrero for 48 on DK. That's, even in this matchup, that's a very good price. 36 on FanDuel is about right. 265, 345, 445, a 118 WRC plus, 26 home runs, 49.9% hard hits, 11.1% barrels. Went on a little bit of a home run tear last couple of weeks, up to 26 on the season. Probably not going to get 30 unless he continues that tear over the next and last couple of days here. But he's pulled the season together a little bit. Still down overall for what we expect from Vladdy Guerrero. But obviously an easy buy if you go to Blue Jays stacks. Kevin Biggio, 29-25. Do we have this lineup? I just realized I didn't have the confirmed lineup. Brandon Belt slotting in fourth. Getting Belt back is a big uptick for this lineup too, by the way. We've talked about him all through the season. The excellent on base, 368 on base, a 133 WRC plus that actually leads this team in his 386 plate appearances, a 13.8% barrel rate, 16 home runs in 386 is pretty good, 15.8% walks. He strikes out 35% of the time, so we're talking about a 3 true outcomes type, but he's doing the right things. He's getting he's very, very valuable to this lineup, and he only costs $42.29. Tonight, for DFS purposes, going up against Garrett Cole as a blocker to Vladdy Guerrero, not great. Kevin Biggio, 29-25. If you're going to Blue Jay stacks, he's not uninteresting. It just sucks that he's first base outfield on DK now instead of having a second base eligibility over there where he'd have a little bit more value. But a playable part in Blue Jay stacks considering he's hitting fifth, 9 home runs, 5 steals on 99 WRC plus. Alejandro Kirk, a moderately playable catcher, 7 home runs and 405 plate appearances. Jansen's the better power hitter at catcher in that lineup. Chapman hits everything very hard. Doesn't see a ton of results for it, but still a 110 WRC plus. Another guy who's playable if you're going to Blue Jays, but not somebody to go out of your way for, not somebody to one-off or anything like that. Merrifield and Kiermaier just kind of mix-ins at the bottom. Merrifield only a 97 WRC plus, does have 11 home runs, 26 steals. Kiermaier a 107 WRC plus, and a little bit of an odd statistical season for him. 8 home runs, 13 steals. Does everything right. Not a major contributor offensively, but has been above average for run creation. Garrett Cole, Jose Barrios. Blue Jays, Yankees, but really, lack of priority for either lineup. I guess I should put the Yankees up top since they did rank out up there. And they do have good value scores. So let's make that Yankees Blue Jays. Got like a pet hair tickling my nostril. I think I got it. I didn't want to jam a finger in my nose on the show. That's a way to get some extra subscribers. Mamba says, love to get your help on a good SP2 today. We went through at the top of the show, Mamba, on looking for what were we calling him, a sneaky pitcher, and the same conversation kind of applies, right? You've got your 3 obvious aces, Outside of those guys, we've got a pretty solid middle through these guys, and then a lot of guys I just don't want to play down here. So my answer is essentially any one of these guys. But I do think Sean Manaea has a very good ceiling for the 6,000 price, and I don't think Zach Thompson's uninteresting for 59. So that's probably where I'd be looking for SP2. I would probably just take the discount. Dunning and Canning facing each other. Either one of those has upside. Dunning has the easier matchup between the two, obviously, but Canning projects out slightly better. Bryce Miller also in a really tough matchup. So really, these two options probably, which is good because they're your cheaper ones. But that's probably where I'd be looking for SP2s. But it is, for me, it's extremely straightforward. It's just, this is your SP2 pool, or your value pool if you're on FanDuel. These are your legit aces, your SP1s. I don't think it's out of the question that you can combine a couple of these guys, of course. If you told me you had like a Barrios Manaea, I almost said Barrios Manana. A Barrios Manaea stack, or like a Canning Barrios, and you just wanted to go middle. Hell, even if you wanted to try and throw a blanket over the win in the LA-Texas game and go Canning and Dunning and just assume that they're both going to pitch well, you're walking a tightrope there, but it's doable. Thanks, that's what I was hoping you'd say. Nothing like getting your beliefs affirmed. All right, I think we can move on from the first game now. 27 minutes in. We started a little late. So we got the Cubbies. I think we're mostly looking at this one for some bats. Vines is 25. Mid-ranked type guy. Yeah. 25-year-old righty. Nothing really good to say about him in terms of like traditional scouting. Traditional scouting report doesn't like him at all. Minor league wise, 34 and a third innings in AAA this year, a 2.36 xFIP with a 2.36 ERA with a 4.96 xFIP and a 20.1% strikeout rate. 107 innings in AA, 20 starts last year. Had a 28.5% strikeout rate, which is a little compelling. A 3.95 ERA, a 3.89 xFIP. Doesn't seem like that guy, though. Traditional scouting-wise, a 40-grade slider, a 35-grade fastball. Looks like a good change and a good control command, or decent control command type. But just overall, I also don't think we're getting all that many innings out of him, probably. Went 6 in the first start on the 30th at Colorado, of all places. Struck out 5, gave up 2. But then he came out, only went 2 innings, gave up a run, struck out 2 against St. Louis. 3 innings against Pittsburgh, gave up a run, and then 3 1/3 at Washington, gave up 3 runs. So I don't know what the depth looks like. And just on a day where there's some clear-cut go-to pitchers, do we really want to go to a presumably fairly low-end kid against the Cubs, who are pretty good? I don't really see it. I also don't really see the point of going to Jameson Taillon, like, at all. Doesn't project out well at all. You could argue that 17 for the money is fine, but not really. And especially not with such a big downside, and not from a pitcher who only has a 21.8% strikeout rate, who has a 5.05 ERA, a 4.43 xFIP. Not great. 4.22% home run rate for Taillon this year, 10.7% barrels going up against the best home run hitting team in baseball. I see some offense coming from the Braves again. Top 6 entirely over the, on average anyway, over the magic number in the home run model. All but one of them actually over the home run mark, and Michael Harris could easily be ranked there. 18 home runs on the season for Harris, a 184 ISO, 290, 328, 474, creating runs 13% better than average. 18 homers and 20 steals. Excellent contact. Sean Murphy's another guy who's right by the magic number for home runs. Eddie Rosario, Orlando Arcia down the bottom of the lineup. Very, very playable parts. It's the everyday version of this lineup. You guys know who's in it. Top end is obviously where all the power is, or not all the power. There's power throughout this lineup, but where even more of the power is. Ronnie Acuna, 41 and 68. Where will he stop? He's got to get those extra 2 steals. If he falls short of 70 stolen bases after getting to the 40 home runs, it's going to be not disappointing. That would be unfair to say. Surprising. It would be a, oh boy, forever it would be a, oh boy, I wish he had gotten those extra 2 stolen bases that year. When you look at it statistically, you look at it in records and stuff. But just an amazing, amazing season from Acuna. 70% better than average creating runs. Everybody in this lineup has an average WRC plus of 129. So on average, they are 29% better than average at creating runs. That's just stupid. 32 homers for Ozzy, 37 for Austin, 53 for Matt. Best players at their positions. Marcell Ozuna, 4,600, 3,300, just as I keep on saying, because somebody's got to be a good player who's kind of cheap in this lineup. 36 home runs, 264 ISO, would be the best player on so many teams. Like Cody's on this team on the other side, but it's close between him and Ozuna. Ozuna's better than everybody else on the Cubs. It's a really, really good Braves lineup. Stack them up any way you can. Put them together in any combination. Any of these guys combined with any of those guys. All of these guys combined with one another. If you can figure out how to pay for it, totally worth getting to. Any given slate, totally worth getting to. On the Cubs side, you could definitely take some shots at Darius Vines. 7 home runs, 6 steals from Mike Tauchman off the top. 364 on base gives you good correlated scoring. And that's what the Cubbies are good at. A lot of good on base here. 342 average on base percentage for this the projected starting lineup. Very good at sequencing, getting on base, creating runs for each other, keeping innings rolling. Nico down to 52 on DK, getting more playable. 3,400 on FanDuel. Obviously somebody out there is listening. 43 steals, a 104 WRC plus, 9 home runs, 285, 350, 387. Good player. He was just overpriced. Ian Happ, 45-32. Very good player, 19 home runs, 14 steals, a 361 on base, creates runs 16% better than average. Very good spot for him in the lineup too, hitting third. Just pop him in there, let him get on base ahead of Cody, Seiya, Dansby, all the power that's throughout the rest of this lineup. Makes a ton of sense to me. Bellinger, 309, 359, 533, a 224 ISO, 26 homers, 20 steals, a monster bounce back season. 5,900, 3,800. Everybody else in the lineup is pretty cheap, so it's easy enough to get to them. 8th by home runs for the Cubbies. 10th by fantasy point projections. It feels like it could be higher. I don't know why they're so low. They look low here because it's all relative to the Braves. Remember, the dots, the colored dots, are only relative to the game that's showing. So they project worse than all the Braves, but they should. I would have thought they project higher. It's probably just really tight in the middle, let's say. Yeah, there's like a half a point separating them and the Yankees in 4th or 5th. So just dragged down a little bit, probably by Miles Mastroboni at the bottom with whatever number that is. But these are like, this is the everyday version of the Cubbies. Can definitely go there. Dansby, premium shortstop, 4,800, 3,200. He's got 22 homers, a 106 WRC plus. Seiya Suzuki, 20 homers, 204 ISO, 126 WRC plus. Had a big power surge through the September, let's say. Don't know if any of it happened in August, but the last few weeks, pretty big power surge from him. Really nice season overall statistically now. 284, 354, 488. Very good season. 47.9% hard hit rate. Chris Morel, 48.8% hard hits, 14.9% barrels, 25 homers, and 416 plate appearances. Very exciting, fun player to watch. Plays 3 positions on the FanDuel slate, 2 positions on DK. Premium piece of value in the bottom of the lineup. John Gomes, a playable catcher. Mastroboni, a little piece of value at the bottom of the lineup. 13 steals, but an 86 WRC plus and 138 plate appearances. If he gets on, he might wrap around, score a run, steal a base. That kind of a guy. Braves bats, Cubs bats, no pitching. Larry C, I'm going to end up with a bunch of Zach Thompson. What could go wrong? I feel you on that one, Larry. I think I would end up there, too. I'm probably just going to throw one in tonight. Haven't made any decisions about where I'm going with it. Let me put the placeholder in now. But yeah, in a full slate of 150, I would probably have a pretty filthy amount of Zach Thompson there. Do I want to play the full main? Nah. Just limited prize pool wise for FanDuel. Yesterday was a little bit more appealing. They put half again on top of what's there today. But they've got a decent top spot in the bigger tournament, so I'm just going to throw one into that. Bear with me real quick while I put my placeholder in here. Wouldn't want to miss out on it. Vic David says Machado or X, assuming we mean Xander. Manny's probably got a slightly higher power mark, skipping way ahead. 10.33 for Manny, only a 6.08 for Xander, but Xander's got the better average, better spot in the lineup, better on base, correlated scoring with Tatis and Soto. Machado's kind of got to drive these guys in, where Bogarts benefits from these guys having a good game, if you get me. I'd be happy with either one of those players. Presumably you're filling shortstop. Yeah, I don't really have a firm lean. I guess I would have to say it depends on are these guys in your lineup and how you're looking at it, but they also correlate with Manny. It's not like they don't. I'd say Xander. Just for the little bit better at getting himself to first base and getting involved this year. You might sacrifice a little bit of power, but you probably pick back up the upside from the spot in the lineup and hitting ahead of those two. So yeah, I think I lean that way. Oops. $5,500 shortstop. Now I'm wondering if we can top that. Who else is out there? There's no way Seager's that's affordable. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, shortstop's kind of tight today, huh? There's three of them. All three of them on the Padres are playable. But Luciano from the Giants, no. Astros shortstops, no. Jeremy Pena. Jose Caballero, J.P. Crawford. J.P. Crawford's probably the next best guy. I mean, I'm excluding Seager because he is out of your price range at 66. Zach Neto, no. Rojas, no. Tovar, no. Wow, yeah, shortstop is thin on DraftKings today. Adames, maybe, but 4,300 is, do something with the money if you went that direction. And I'd rather have either of the guys from any one of the three guys from the Padres, actually. I don't really like Willie Adames that much. Nobody from the A's. The Twins, maybe. No, I mean, Kyle Farmer's your only shortstop on DK, though. I don't dislike Kyle Farmer, but that's a very different play. Dansby. 48 for Dansby, I don't mind. Arcia at 39. Again, different price range. Not going to Volpe. Bo Bichette, 51. You're one-offing against Cole if you did that, but that's probably your fourth best shortstop on this board. Or third best? Fourth best. Really, yeah, tough shortstop spot. I didn't pick up on that, but the shortstop is thin today. Good question. I would probably go with Xander off the top there. Take shortstop, assuming you've got some power booked into that lineup. A couple of the power hitters behind him. It's a one-off. You have no San Diego. Those are the three best shortstop options probably on the board. Or Seager, and then those three guys are your best shortstop options, and then Bo Bichette against Garrett Cole. With no San Diego in that lineup, I might then opt for Machado and just try and pick off the power. If I'm looking at it as a one-off and there's no correlated scoring involved, then yeah, I'd probably try and grab the one-off power with Manny. Individual lineup question day. Throw your questions in. We'll try and get them answered. 501. Only three games down? 2 games down? Third game. Drop your questions and we'll see what we can do. Pablo Lopez, 11-4, 11-3. Monster projection. Monster opportunity going up against the Oakland A's. We've seen pitchers succeed. We've seen pitchers fail. But Pablo's got a great shot here. 3.61 ERA, 3.33 xFIP, a 29.2% strikeout rate. Keeping home runs in check at 3.07%, only 34.5% hard hits, 87 miles an hour of exit velo, 6.4% barrels. He's been terrific. He's really taken a big leap forward this year. 31 starts, 189 and 2/3, giving you pretty good depth of start most times out. 14.6% swinging strike rate. Premium spot for Pablo Lopez. This is one to get aggressive about in my mind. I like the spot. He projects out, like we looked at, a significant amount of points ahead of Cole, handful of points ahead of Fromber, who I like a lot as well. But Lopez has, I mean, if we're talking about pitchers with fairly clear sailing to their upside, Lopez is your guy. Joey Estes on the other side made 1 start so far. Pretty disastrous. He's only 21. He faced 4 2/3 against Seattle. 2 strikeouts, allowed 3 home runs, 5 earned runs, 6 hits. Faced 25 hitters. Not a great outing. In 104 1/3 at Double-A this year, he had a 3.28 ERA with a 4.91 xFIP, 23.3% strikeouts. 32 2/3 at Triple-A after that. Presumably after that. 5.23 ERA, a 6.04 xFIP, and a 21.5% strikeout rate. And he's fortunate enough to pitch for the Oakland Athletics, so that earned him a promotion to the show, and he made that one terrible start. I think we're targeting this pitcher with some Twins bets. They project out very, very well. They ranked 3rd by fantasy point projections. 1st for point per dollar on both sites. 12th by home run upside, which is odd considering his home run total doesn't even 12%. 12% of the hitters that he faced in that first game hit home runs. It's only 3 home runs. 94.3 miles an hour of exit velo in that. Gave up 25% barrels in that. Ouch. 25.3 degree average launch. So everybody was just mashing the ball into the air. The Twins have some good home run hitters in this lineup too. Edward Julian, capable guy off the top. 14 homers on the season, 184 ISO, 131 WRC plus. Jorge Polanco, 14 homers and only 336 plate appearances, a 203 ISO, 121 WRC plus. Been bringing it up since he came back, but people forget how good Jorge Polanco is. 2021, his last full season, 33 home runs, 11 steals. 2019, 22 home runs. He's a good hitter. Donovan Solano, 2,800, 2,600, 3 positions on FanDuel for only 26. Giving you a 286, 371, 401. It's just cheap because he doesn't really hit for power. But hitting 3rd in a lineup with these stats is valuable. A guy who's getting on 37% of the time for that cheap in a productive lineup, hitting ahead of a power hitter like Max Kepler, he's got value, especially on FanDuel where he fits into 3 positions. Kepler for 43.29. He's got 23 home runs, a 221 ISO, and 476 plate appearances, a 12% barrel rate, 48.2% hard hits. He should be more expensive. Matt Wallner should probably be more expensive at this point. It's weird how we've talked about this a lot, but it's weird how they choose to tax past immediate performance or not with some of these guys. And Wallner has fallen firmly into the not bucket. 142 WRC plus over his 241 plate appearances, 13 home runs, a 249 ISO, again in 241 plate appearances, 17.5% barrels, 47.6% hard hits, only cost 3,400, 2,800. In a world where some of these other guys who do less or similar have rocketed into the 5,000s, the high threes. Which is weird. Excellent option in the heart of that lineup. Ryan Jeffers, power behind the plate, 11.9% barrels, 42.7% hard hits, 12 homers, a 204 ISO. Premium option behind the plate. Willie Castro, Kyle Farmer, you guys know I like these two guys. They bounce around to multiple positions, 3 positions each on FanDuel, 2 positions each on DK. Both very cheap. Both do interesting things and get involved on the field. 104 WRC plus for Castro, 101 for Kyle Farmer. Farmer's got 11 home runs. Castro's got 9, and he's also stolen 32 bases. That's a pretty impressive stolen base total in 386 plate appearances when you're only getting on at a 326 clip. It's pretty good. Vasquez, kind of a lost year. 6 home runs, a 65 WRC plus. Just a catcher at the bottom of the lineup. Not really a playable one. This is your playable catcher. Vasquez just kind of stealing a lineup spot here from our guy Michael A. But yeah, I think the Twins... 1 through 8 in a variety of combinations. This is definitely your value stack of the day. I'm sure they're going to be popular. Good matchup. I'm sure they're highly projected around the industry, and they're obviously a great value pricing. But especially on the FanDuel slate, and I've said this a few times lately, with 3 guys that play 3 positions, another guy that plays 2, a lot of middle infielders to work with, a lot of very cheap prices. This is one of my favorite teams to stack with because they're a building block to get to other things where you want a team with a lot of outfielders, a lot of corner infielders. You get so many middle infield options from this team that have talent. A couple good, capable outfielders. A guy like Ryan Jeffers, who is a capable catcher that you can put at the first base spot on FanDuel. Interesting options from the Twins. A's side going up against Pablo, really limited. A couple hedge stacks if you want them of maybe some of the power bats. We've talked about the excellent barrel rates, the excellent hard hit rates. Everything else for this team struggles. Ryan Note is very good at getting on base. Zach Geloff has been pretty good overall. 13 home runs, 14 steals, a 136 WRC plus in his 277 plate appearances. But his price has gone up pretty high. 4,700. 3,400 on FanDuel. Plays second base. So a little bit more of a value position than getting an outfielder like Wallner. But I mean, I know Wallner doesn't steal, but he's getting on at a 373 clip, creating runs 42% better than average, versus Geloff getting on at a 339, creating runs 36% better than average. Comparable ISOs, comparable home run totals, or the same home run total. Geloff's had 30 more plate appearances. The difference is the stolen bases, really. A couple more points of batting average. Does that equal that price difference? Not in my mind. Even with the positional advantage. And Geloff has less support in the lineup. Seth Brown, 3,000, 2,600, good power hitting lefty, 14 home runs, a 186 ISO, 93 WRC plus. Brent Rooker sitting at 29 home runs, 3,700, 2,900. You can absolutely go there when he costs this. There's no issues with the flaws in his mechanics, the flaws in his overall player profile. It's when he's in the 6,000s and the 4,000s that it gets concerning. JJ Bleday, Jordan Diaz, Tyler Soderstrom, Nick Allen, Lawrence Butler. Mix and match parts at best. Bleday, 10 home runs on 96 WRC plus. Diaz, 10 home runs on 82. Soderstrom, their premium rookie catcher, only a 168, 240, 257 so far, creating runs 58% worse than average. 2,200 is very, very cheap for a catcher. He is a lefty. He is a kid they expect to hit, but we're really pulling a thin thread there. Butler's got a little bit of pop in his bat from the left side, but again, a guy hitting 9th against a very good pitcher who doesn't give up a lot of power, it gets very, very thin. Vic says, I can't decide which Twins I need now. Top priority Twins is probably 1, 2, 3. Like if I was building a 3-man, I'd probably just grab those 3 guys. And then any of Solano, Castro, or Farmer are very good, like help you build for very cheap, fill out a stack with a little bit of upside, with a little bit of value. Or you go Wallner or Jeffers for the power. right? So it's just giving you different things outside of the three kind of go-to guys. Solano, Castro, and Farmer all give you different things with the three positions or the two positions on DK. Solano only a first baseman, 2,800 on DK. That takes a little bit of value away from him. Much more valuable over here where you get him at second or third in addition to first. But he's not bad there. Just because of how involved he is in the offense. You'd like to have more power from first base. But if you can offset it somewhere else, you offset it kind of technically by getting a very good power hitting second baseman. You can't play Julian and I just noticed they were in the same position. All right, let's unwind that then. DK wise, I'd have to say, so 1, 2, probably Wallner. Probably that is a priority. And then I would probably go Solano and one of these two guys to fill out the 5-man. That sucks that they're positional blockers for each other. I didn't notice that. Obviously not an issue on FanDuel, but FanDuel also gives Polanco multi-position. Easy to get to on FanDuel. Terry, are you going to be playing NBA basketball? Not unless I get taller. Presumably we're talking DFS? Yes, I will be playing DFS basketball for sure. I will also most likely plan to. Haven't figured out how yet, but plan to be covering it. Eight-game dress, one lineup on the way to work in the morning and one on the way home in the evening. That's one way to do it. Just make sure that everything from the morning lineup still works. How frequently do your opinions swing wildly throughout the day? So Pablo Lopez way up top. Twins bats, pretty strong option. A's bats, not really. Joey Estes, no. Mama says Terry is really gifted in NBA. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. I like NBA a lot. I like it for DFS. I like the, I'm a big fan of the league in general. But yeah, I like talking NBA for DFS. I like how the numbers work for NBA and DFS. So yeah, it should be fun. Zach Thompson, 5,900 on both sites. 25.4% strikeout rate. Pretty good for a guy who's that cheap. It's a little bit mixed across everything else. But that is a good price for that strikeout potential. Last two times out, went exactly 5, gave up 4 earned runs, struck out 4. The 2 times before that, 5 innings, gave up 3, struck out 6. 7 innings, gave up 3, struck out 6. 4 innings against San Diego back at the end of August, went only 4 innings, 2 earned, 3 strikeouts. We have to go back to a 1-inning appearance against the Twins on August 3rd to find a game in which he appeared and did not give up a run. But he hasn't gotten torched. The 4 innings, the last 2 times out, the 4 innings are his season highs. The fact that he did that in back-to-back outings is not all that encouraging. The fact that the strikeouts 6 and 5 are okay for the money, but there hasn't been really a strikeout peak. He got 8 against Colorado back at the beginning of August in only 4 innings, and a lot of 5s in fairly short starts. So the strikeout potential's there. The depth is maybe in question. The strikeout ceiling is maybe in question because of the depth. But 5 innings, if he manages to get through it cleanly, it's really mostly about the runs. 4.57 ERA, 3.78 xFIP is indicative of pitching a little bit better under the surface. A 1.44 WHIP and a 9.1% walk rate are both high. 3.03% home runs is fine. 43.6% hard hits and 90 plus miles an hour of exit velo are a little high. 7.6% barrels is fine. So kind of up and down, kind of mixed across the board, but you're not paying anything for him. He projects out okay. If you're building 150 lineups, I think he definitely belongs in the value player pool at least. Strong candidate for SP2 shares, even if he doesn't have a great game. At the price, he doesn't need to have a great game. He barely even needs to have a good game. Yeah, I like the option. Wade Miley on the other side, 16.4% strikeouts, a 3.20 ERA, but a 4.86 xFIP in 115 and a third. Having a Wade Miley kind of a year, 30.9% hard hits, 87 miles an hour of exit velo, but a 3.40% home run rate. These numbers don't really all go together. Last year, that was much more logical, 1.89 because the hard hits were pretty low. 2.46 the year before, similar story. Typically is pretty good at limiting premium contact, limiting power. Not a pitcher that we want to go to at all for DFS purposes at 7,400, 8,000. Just doesn't project well enough against a pretty decent, well, nope. Against a interesting version of the Cardinals lineup. No Paul Goldschmidt, no Arenado. I think Arenado went on the aisle. I forget. Yeah, he did. It doesn't lead me to Wade Miley, but this is an interesting, weird little version of the Cardinals lineup for sure. I just don't see the strikeout upside. He would really have to pitch, like a complete game. If we got 9 innings out of Miley, maybe. Did go 6 against this team the last time out. 3-hitter, struck out 7. That was his strikeout high for the year? No. He had an 8 strikeout game against Cincinnati back in July and an 8 strikeout game at San Diego back in April. I mean, if you get that performance, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, no runs, 3 hits, 2 walks. If you got that performance, it would be borderline. It would probably be good. But no guarantees. Low strikeout guy overall. It's just the appeal of going up against this limited version of the lineup is kind of significant, but I wish we had a better pitcher to use. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to recommend it. Tommy Edman off the top of the Cards lineup. Limited season for him. Only a 90 WRC plus. Leading into Jordan Walker, who's been good. 16 home runs, 7 steals, 276, 345, 447. Creating runs 18% better than average. But then we get Luken Baker at 61 WRC plus over 80 plate appearances. Striking out 31.3% of the time. He does have a 54.2% hard hit rate. 2 home runs in that sample. But hasn't really been ideal. Very, very cheap at 2,300 at first base. Juan Yepez, 2,600, 2,200 across sites. First base eligible on the FanDuel slate. 2 home runs in 54 plate appearances this year. We'll remember him from last year hitting 12 in 274. Sneaky righty bat against lefties who does have power. Hasn't really done much, hasn't really had much of an opportunity this year. Lars Nootbaar, their big lefty. 13 home runs, 11 steals. Probably the best player in this lineup today. Lefty, Nootbaar. Remind me. Pretty mediocre. 88 WRC plus, 129 against righties, 273, 84, 50 against righties, 235, 333, 324 against lefties, 179 ISO down to a .088 against lefties. So Nootbaar loses a lot against lefties, but Wade Miley is more of a gettable lefty than other lefties. Ivan Herrera, their premium catcher prospect, 55% hard hits in his 35 plate appearances. Interesting kid behind the plate. Uniel Karakuto, 2,000 dead minimum on both sites. Hasn't done anything. Zeros across the board except for 2 runs scored in his 12 plate appearances. Richie Palacios, Mason Wynn, mix and match options at best at the bottom of the lineup. Palacios hasn't been uninteresting. 5 home runs in 82 plate appearances, 267 ISO, a 124 WRC plus. Oops, I clicked the wrong Palacios. Come on. He's got no seasons in the minors of more than 8 home runs. So to say that his 5 home runs in 82 plate appearances are a bit of an outlier would be a dramatic overstatement. That is really weird that he's hit those 5 home runs. So I don't think we're going that way. If you're going to Cards, your priorities are probably right here. You could easily say that Luken Baker fits in. It's if you're worried about the lefty-lefty or if you just don't want to go to Juan Yepez. He's fine to go to. but just top of the lineup shares for the Cards, really. The Brewers, I think you could take some shares of against Zach Thompson. Christian Yelich out of the lineup, though. Obviously a ding there. Sal Frelick leading off. So we get Frelick, Tyrone Taylor hitting third, Caratini hitting cleanup, Rowdy hitting fifth. Interesting version of the lineup. Both of these teams rolling out kind of just this division's decided type lineups. Contreras is a very interesting catcher. 4,700 is cheap for his talent. 3,200, great spot in the lineup. 289, 367, 462. His created runs 25% better than average this year. 17 homers, 5 steals. He's the only player in the Brewers lineup, and they are a playoff team, I'll remind you. He's the only player in their lineup today, their catcher, with a positive WRC+. That's just bizarre. It's not the everyday lineup, obviously. A lot of guys with 200-300 plate appearances here. But a lot of these guys have been involved through most of the season. The average WRC+ for this lineup is 89. Bump to Zach Thompson, man. Not that, it takes us, not that I'm saying I'm going to add 10 points to his projection and get him 100% of the time. But damn, there's a little bit of upside for the lineup that both of these pitchers are going to be facing. Tyrone Taylor does have power from the right side. He's got 9 home runs on the year, 230 plate appearances. He had 17 and 405 last year. Doesn't ever really get the love that he deserves. 2,900, 2,600. Interesting spot in the lineup, hitting third. I do think you can go to these Brewers, by the way, just because it's a diminished version of the lineup that I do like for Zach Thompson's chances. Doesn't mean that I'm not kind of interested in going to like Frelick, Contreras, Tyrone Taylor. I don't know about Caratini as my second catcher on FanDuel, but deciding between Caratini and Contreras is not uninteresting on DK. Caratini's got a little bit of pop in his bat and is cheaper by almost 2,000. Rowdy is definitely interesting, 2,600 across sites with all his power. They chase Thompson early, you get him against a righty. Andrew Monasterio, Blake Perkins, Brian Anderson, Bryce Turang, pretty weak bottom end. But the top of this lineup, like 1 through 5, still kind of stackable. I think I prefer the Thompson side. Oddly. Zach Thompson value? Cardinals bats? The board doesn't really matter because they were very different lineups when I ranked them. Zach Thompson bat value, just because I like the top end of the lineup a little bit better, I think. I'll go Zach Thompson value, Brewers bats against him, Cardinals bats, and then Wade Miley at the bottom. I don't really see Wade Miley, but if you're a big Wade Miley fan, if you got his jersey hanging in your closet, maybe tonight's your night. You throw it on, you put the game on, and you roster some Wade Miley. I don't see it. I'm not going to do it. But out of all the nights this season for Wade Miley where you could say this is a night on which Wade Miley might have a pretty good start, this is one of those nights. Dodgers and the Rocks. Coors Field on both sides tonight. We do have the Rockies lineup in. I don't think there's really any need to consider the pitching in this one. We're not exactly thin for pitching, even value pitching. So Noah Davis is definitely out, falls short of most of the hitters by projection. 67.55. He's got a 17.7% strikeout rate in his 5 starts, 25 and 2/3 innings, a 4.03% home run rate, an 8.77 ERA, and a 5.17 xFIP with a 10.5% walk rate and a 1.91 whip. And he's pitching at Coors Field against the Los Angeles Dodgers. No, thank you. Sheehan is more the potentially usable guy, but 11.6% walks don't really play at Coors Field. Neither does 9% barrels, 4% home runs, 40% hard hits, 21.8 degree average launch. I do think there's talent here. 24% strikeout rate is good. 13% swinging strike rate is very, very good. 5.13 ERA, 5.14 xFIP. Hit a few bumps in the road in his 10 starts, 54 and a third innings. But I think going forward, there's a lot of talent here. I just don't want to roster it at Coors Field tonight when he hasn't really figured it out at this level yet. Dodgers bats exploding through the top of the power index, outpacing the Braves. 7.5 run total. The entire world is going to be on the Dodgers here. I don't think there's any secret there. 20.5 in the home run model for Mookie. 13 plus for Freddie. 10 plus for Will Smith, 18 plus for Max, 17 plus for JD. And then you get the trio of lefties, the Hayward, Outman, and Peralta. If you get a Med Rosario, he's playable. Miguel Rojas, not really as much. But they're just an excellent lineup to have in Coors Field. I think you go to them. It's one of those situations where you do you, however you like to play Coors Field, whatever your strategy is for it. To me, I tend to go away from Coors Field chalk. But this is one of those situations where they're so good and they're so elite, and it's such a good matchup against the pitcher that it might not matter that they're popular. So I think they belong in your pool. Certainly a roster but undercut situation could be good. At worst, pay attention to your combinations and try and get to some lower-owned combinations of these players. But any setup of Mookie, Freddie, Will Smith, Max Muncy, JD Martinez is pretty spectacular. 39 home runs and 14 steals for Mookie with a 69% better than average creating runs. 62% better than average creating runs from Freddie, the best first baseman in baseball, not named Matt Olson, the guy he switched places with. Well, switched places with, he went to Los Angeles, not Oakland, obviously. 18 home runs on the board for Will Smith in 540 plate appearances. Plays basically every day. Doesn't strike out. Draws walks. An excellent catcher option. Max Muncy, 15.2% barrels, 46.4% hard hits. JD, 17% barrels, 54.3% hard hits. Just outrageous power up and down this lineup. Hayward's created runs 27% better than average and has 15 home runs in 360 plate appearances. Nobody was really expecting this, but he's held up through the season. It's been pretty good. Part-time player, but gets the majority of the at-bats against righties. 551 plate appearances for Outman. 22 homers, 15 steals, a 117 WRC+. plus. Peralta and Miguel Rojas, mix and match parts at the bottom. I like Peralta a lot better than Rojas, but he's down to an 80 WRC+, plus, only 7 home runs. The average is dipped, the on-base percentage is dipped. So maybe that's a two-man group now with Hayward and Outman, and we'll bump Peralta out of the group until he pulls things together. For the Rockies side of things, Charlie Blackmon, Ezequiel Tovar, Nolan Jones, no Chris Bryant in the lineup tonight. They are playable. Going up against Sheehan, like I said, hasn't truly figured things out at this level. They were one of the other teams projected over 5 on the board in Vegas. So we do have the support of a little bit of run creation potential. Blackmon is just an on-base specialist at this point, 106 WRC+, plus, a 368 on base. Hitting ahead of Tovar, not great. 15 home runs, 11 stolen bases for him, a 160 ISO, 74 WRC+. plus. Nolan Jones has had a tremendous year in 401 plate appearances, 292, 387, 540. A 249 ISO, 133 WRC+, plus, 19 homers, 17 steals. Excellent season from him. He's another guy. Should be more expensive. Well, on DK anyway. 42 on FanDuel. FanDuel got it right. Arguably a little high, but it is Coors Field. Brendan Rodgers, 36-29. Cheap. Got his first 2 home runs the other day. 256, 314, 353. Maybe coming around a little bit. Struggled to get out of the gate after his first 169 plate appearances, but maybe hitting his stride a little bit. Did have 13 homers, a decent year last year. Decent, not great. 100 WRC plus the year before, 15 homers, 92 WRC plus last year with 13. But a capable part, hitting cleanup, playing a key position at second base for cheap pricing in Coors Field. Enough said. Elias Diaz, Ryan McMahon, Eleudis Montero, all 3 of them are playable. All 3 of them have power. They fill positions pretty cheaply. Ryan McMahon at third base for 46, second and third for 34. You can do worse than McMahon. As long as he's not facing a lefty, he's always on the board. 23 home runs, a 193 ISO. Montero, 3,400, 2,900, 2 positions on FanDuel. 8 home runs and 284 plate appearances, but only a 70 WRC+, plus, a 160 ISO. Elias Diaz, a playable catcher with 14 homers, but only an 80 WRC+. plus. And then Borchardt and Brenton Doyle just kind of mix and match guys at the bottom. Dodgers bats way up top, but mind the ownership obviously. Rockies bats, no pitching in this one for me, but if you had to do it, if the bomb's ticking down to the last 10 seconds and somebody's making you decide, definitely take Emmett Sheehan over whatever the guy's name pitching for the Rockies is. No lineups in this one yet, presumably. Let me reload. Nope, no lineups yet. Oh, Heimer Candelario back in the Cubbies lineup. We didn't have that one when we talked about it. Cubs lineup now goes Tauchman, Horner, Happ, Bellinger, Suzuki, Swanson, Candelario, John Gomes, Miles Mastrobuoni. So he slotted in for... Who the hell do we have in that spot? Slotted in for Morel. I don't want to call it a downgrade necessarily. Kind of a lateral move. Candelario is a pretty good hitter. He pops to a 6.39. So we do lose a little bit in terms of where the home run model's seeing it. But you're getting him for $3,000 at third base on FanDuel, $4,300 first base, third base on DK. He's got 21 homers, a 220 ISO, 118 WRC plus, and 555 plate appearances. Not bad. I like Chris Morel a little bit better. He also fills 3 positions on FanDuel, I think. But I'm happy taking shares of Heimer Candelario in this spot if I was going to the Cubs. Mostly a lateral move, like I said. Dane Dunning, 18.9% strikeouts on the year, 3.88 ERA, a 4.47 xFIP, having mostly a Dane Dunning kind of a season. Like I said at the top of the show, these guys are kind of dueling for the exact middle of the league in this one. Dunning spiked a few big strikeout games. Had a 10 strikeout game, an 11 strikeout game, and a 12 strikeout game this year. 12 came against San Francisco, 11 was against the White Sox, and 10 was against Detroit. Obviously, the Angels kind of fall into that range as a team. 25% strikeouts for the projected version of the lineup. All their big threats not playing or not on the team anymore. So you're dealing with a lineup that has Brandon Drury as their major power bat. Some interesting young players, Nolan Schanuel, Zach Neto, Joe Adell, Logan O'Hoppe. Not uninteresting, but not really ripping the cover off the ball yet. Dunning is an interesting option here. 7,800, 8,200. Doesn't give up a ton in terms of power. 7.8% barrels at 2.93% home run rate. Typically keeps the ball down fairly effectively. 10.3 degree launch this year, but 5.4 the year before, 6.8 the year before that. Has always been fairly good at keeping the ball in the yard, even when he's not going completely right. 9.4% swinging, 27.2% CSW. The big strikeout total is really the question. Clean innings are a little bit less in doubt in my mind. But what does he do strikeout-wise? Does he find a few additional strikeouts given the free-swinging nature of this Angels team? Does he keep a guy like Nolan Schanuel, who does have a 407 on base, 284, 407, 343 over his first 123 plate appearances? Does he keep him off base just to keep his not have to pitch out of the stretch and face Brandon Drury and Mike Moustakas and give up a little bit of incidental power? That's going to be one of the keys, is just keeping these two guys off base. Neto's really struggled, though. 224, 299, 85 WRC plus. I wouldn't be surprised to see him not in the lineup. Drury's a good power bat, 24 home runs, righty hitter, 4,300, 3,000. If you're going to Angels, he's a top priority bat in that stack. But given Dunning's proficiency at keeping the ball in the yard, I don't really like the idea of going to Angels really at all here. They're fine for value because they're cheap, but a limited version of this lineup going up against a pitcher that I like. They rank 15th. They rank 13th by FanDuel value, 9th by DK value, 13th by home run upside. Just going up against pitchers who take the home runs away. Not ideal. Moustakas, 12 home runs from the left side, 148 ISO, 81 WRC plus. O'Hoppe has 13 home runs in only 183 plate appearances. Definitely an interesting catcher bat. Another guy that could be taxed up a little bit. Only costs 3,600 where you do need catchers, 2,900 where you don't. The power is very realistic. He had a lot of those home runs before he went out, missed 90% of the season with an injury, but he's hit a couple since he's come back. Randall Grichuk, 15 home runs, capable veteran bat in the outfield, but more a good player than like a focal point. 44.8% hard hits is good, 15 homers is good, 103 WRC plus. Joe Adell, 300 plus ISOs in each of the last 3 seasons in the minors, 3 home runs and 47 plate appearances in the show. The potential to be a monster power hitter if he ever figures it out at this level. Jared Walsh, 127, 219, 284 in 114 plate appearances. Very, very cheap lefty hitter. Did hit 29 home runs 2 years ago in 585 plate appearances. Only 15 last year in a down season and then missed most of this year. But sneaky power potentially lurking late. If Walsh hits up here, I like him a little better. Like you could go Shanuel, Grichuk, Walsh, Drury, Moustakis, O'Hop. I think that would be a better lineup. And then leave Joe Adele where he is. Yeah, we'll see what comes out. Don't really want to play all that many Angels. Don't really want to play all that many Rangers against Griff Canning. Canning's having a good year too. 4.39 ERA, 3.78 xFIP, 26.2% strikeout rate is a significant strikeout rate for him. 6.7% walks. Giving up too much in terms of home runs, so it's the opposite situation. He strikes out a few more on average, but gives up a little bit more in terms of the power, in terms of the long balls, a little bit more in terms of runs, but they're about even. 9.5% barrels, 42.6% hard hits, 91.1 miles an hour of exit velo for Canning. He has a 12 strikeout game and then a couple of nines at the peak, but much more consistent in giving you 7, 8, a lot of sevens, but 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 9 kind of a performer, unless he has a bad start, in which case you're getting 3 and he's out early. Not the greatest matchup in the world for Canning, going up against the Rangers. Obviously a tough spot. A lot of power coming through for the Rangers. Seager, Young, and Adolis all over the magic number for home runs. I actually made Adolis Garcia the home run pick of the day, just because he ranked out pretty well. I hadn't used him in a while, and I couldn't decide, so I went that direction. He's got 37 long balls on the season, a 122 WRC+, 258 ISO, a monster power hitter. Another very good power bat right here. 208 ISO, 23 home runs, and only 496 plate appearances for Josh Young. Monster breakout season, got hurt, missed a little bit of time. Would have been interesting to see where he had finished. 30 home runs probably would have been in sight. Not saying he would have gotten there, but give him another 200 plate appearances or 150 plate appearances. Probably be sitting like 27, 28 right now. Nathaniel Lowe, 17 homers on the season, a 116 WRC+, just continues doing Nathaniel Lowe things. 703 plate appearances, out there every day, getting on base, correlated scoring. Interesting enough option for 3,000 and 4,400 across sites at first base. Helps average down the stars around him. Corey Seager, superstar, 515 plate appearances, 33 home runs, a 174 WRC+, 332, 394, 640. Doesn't get any better. Marcus Semien, awesome option at second base for 58.36. Price come down by a couple of bucks. It bounces back and forth. 28 home runs, 14 steals for Semien, 125 WRC+. The power really came on lately for Semien. He was having a not monster power season. Shot at getting over 30. 731 plate appearances to get there, but a shot at getting over 30. Both power hitting catchers, Jonah Heim, Mitch Garver, very, very playable. 3,800, 2,900 for Heim, 4,300, 3,200 for Garver. 18 home runs for Heim, 19 for Garver. Heim had more plate appearances, but they both have premium power at that position. I think they're both playable. If they're both in the lineup, you can mix and match them. You can play them together on the FanDuel slate. Leo de Taveras, 3,500, 2,900, playable part, back up to a 100 WRC+. Evan Carter, 3,900, 3,400, 189 WRC+, over 57 plate appearances. 4 home runs, 3 steals, 319, 421, 681. Unfair to be able to add that to this outrageously good lineup late in the season. 13.3% barrel rate, 43.3% hard hits. Excellent option bringing up the bottom of the lineup there. Very difficult game to rank. The Angels lineup ranks at the bottom. I know that. Dunning? Fuck. Canning projects out by a little bit better. I'm still going to go that way. Just given the lineups, the matchups, I'm going to go Dunning, Canning, Rangers bats, Angels bats. I think that's the right way to do it. Three out of these four spots are very good looking. Joker. Enough, buddy. Shut up. Larry C says, Minnie in Texas looking good, but that all depends on if Seager is playing, which is iffy. Is Seager going to be in after getting hit in the face? Did he get hit in the face? Shit, I missed that. I did not realize that. Get hit in the face or in the arm? This says in the arm. Sounds like he's got a forearm bruise. I mean, the Rangers are still really good either way, but that's definitely a downgrade to that lineup and a little bit of an uptick for Griff Canning, obviously. Is he still... He's projected in there. Let's see. Let's take a quick survey. Everybody's probably getting projected in because everybody steals their lineups from the same two places. Yep. Yeah, he's projected in and around town right now. I had missed that he gotten hurt though. I would not be surprised to see him sit. X-rays are negative. Apparently he didn't want to come out of the game last night. He stayed in initially, got hit, stayed in, came out in the 6th later on. They called it a contusion. X-rays are negative, so he got hit in the meaty part of the forearm probably. Probably a pretty big bruise right there. Something that would hurt to play through, but not something that would be in any kind of danger of exacerbating the injury, making it worse, missing the playoffs. That's what it seems like. Mambo was watching live, looked like the face, didn't know if you're... So it's presumably one of those ones that came up and in and got in, yeah. Makes sense. I completely missed that. Joker like stunning. Rangers are battling for a playoff spot, so unless it's really bad, I'm sure he will play. Yeah, I mean... I lean toward play, especially just because assuming that it... Would you calm down, you spaz? What are you doing? Oh my God. Just came like bounding in here under the desk. Yeah, assuming that it is just a contusion, which it seems like that is the case, no risk of him making it worse. So as long as he can swing the bat, which, does involve obviously torquing the forearm, I would think that he's going to be out there. What are we dealing with? Let me see. They are... What, a half game up? Oh, they're 2.5 up. So they're 2.5 up in the division, which means they're the same 2.5 up in that final wild card spot because it's those three teams. It's Houston, Seattle, and Texas. Yankees 5.5 games out of that final wild card spot. Wah, 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 wah. I don't know that it's necessarily a has to play if he can because of battling for a playoff spot, Lar. It's a good call. You're not wrong. But I think given a 2.5 game lead, if they had to, if it was like there's a chance he could hurt himself again, or if it's just he just literally can't swing, he'd be bunting up there kind of a situation. I could see him sitting, given that they're up that much. But yeah, presumably he's going to be out there. Doesn't seem like something that would keep him off the field if he wants to play and if he's physically capable. No, I didn't see that, Lara. I'll have to look for it. Article in The Athletic about the Yanks. What, just railing about the front office and the questionable decisions and so on? I'll have to take a look. Good boy. Good boy. I don't know why you're so uppity right now. So, call it a tie. Dunning and Canning are two good options. Call it a tie. Canning in the worst matchup, even if Seager doesn't go, particularly if Seager does go. But they're like neck and neck. You can see it in the projections. Call it a tie. Rangers are more playable than the Angels. couple interesting bats on the Angels side, but not a spot you really want to go to, especially with Dunning's ability again to kind of check home run power. A lot more power coming through on the Rangers side. Joker smells the bacon. You're going to win tonight. Let's hope. Astros and the Mariners. Good pitching matchup here. Everybody knows we love Framber Valdez on this show. Mariners lineup is in. Drop this in here. All right, rigged up, like, it makes it sound like I was like, stripping wires and like, using a bunch of duct tape and making like, splicing shit. I plugged in the old wired keyboard and got rid of the wireless one. As I was trying to put lineups in last night, it was acting up on me again when I was trying to like copy, control shift, copy paste stuff. And just can't have that coming down 5 minutes before lock. So had to switch it out. It seems to be making a difference with the mouse. I think maybe there was something like these are the shitty products were just like chewing up too much of the Bluetooth signal from one another and cannibalizing each other. Because the mouse hasn't acted up at all today. It's been running nice and smooth. So maybe this is the setup. I do have a wired mouse that we can go to, though. You're not safe. I want you to know that. Oh, Mamba says Seager's playing for the AL batting title, which gives him presumably some bonus money. He's got a 4-point lead over Yandy Diaz. I mean, that could cut both ways, Mamba. Does he play, go the Ted Williams route? Or does he sit and protect the batting average? Because if he doesn't play, the batting average doesn't go down. If he doesn't play, if he's 4 points up, Yandy's got to catch him. If he plays, he could go 0 for, goes 0 for 5 with a hurt arm. That hurts the batting average. So, it's interesting. But, yeah, that's the famous, I know I've told it on this show before. I'm sure you guys know it. But the famous Ted Williams story. He was hitting 400 going into the last day of the season. And the manager said they had a doubleheader. And the manager said, hey, Ted, I'll sit you one of the games. Whatever you want. Got to have you have 400. Williams said, fuck, I'm playing both games. Went out there, went like 5 for 8. Hit 404, I think. Yeah, that's probably exactly what's holding the lineup up is that Seager decision. So Framber, 10-2, 10-6, projects out great, 194 innings and 30 starts, pitches deep into ball games, 24.6% strikeout rate, walking 6.6%, limiting home runs fairly effectively. The average launch is not in the negative degrees this year, but we'll take what we can get. Keeps the ball down spectacularly well in most outings. Had a couple clunkers. Last time out, gave up 6 earned runs, but struck out 10. A lot of his weird game, his ugly games have been weird like that, where he'll have a good strikeout total. He'll still work 7 innings. That one he went 5 1/3. 10 strikeouts, though. Walked 3, 7 total runs, 6 earned, 4 hits. Just a weird combination of factors. So 6 earned runs, 7 total runs on only 4 hits. No home runs in there, but 3 walks. 10 strikeouts. It's a weird game. 7 innings the game before that. Clean game. Gave up an unearned run. 6 hits, 5 strikeouts. 3 runs in a very annoying game against the Athletics where he gave up 2 home runs, but still went 7, struck out 10. That's the kind of start I'm talking about where he's just had these weird ones. Lower strikeout totals in a lot of the games where he's not giving up runs. Seems like runs piss him off, and then he goes out and strikes out more guys. But overall, I like the option. Going up against a free-swinging Mariners club, there should be plenty of strikeouts on board for him. If he can manage to avoid the home runs, and you can see the impact that he has in the home run model. Manage to avoid the home runs. Don't put anybody on base via the free pass. Probably going to be okay here. The Mariners not great for sequencing, not great for on base. They're a power-hitting, free-swinging kind of a club. A lot of 30-plus strikeout guys here, or thereabouts. So I like Framber here, and especially a little bit of a discount from the other premium starters. Not a huge discount. He's still very expensive, but a little bit cheaper than Garrett Cole and Pablo Lopez. Bryce on the other side. Like Bryce a lot talent-wise. Where are we at? Let's see. 6 earned in the last start, only 2 strikeouts. Outing before that was a little bit better, 5 1/3 against the Dodgers. Struck out 4, no runs, walked 1. That's a pretty good start considering it was the Dodgers. 5 innings in the game before that, gave up 5 earned to Tampa Bay, struck out 7. 5 innings before that, only 1 earned at Cincinnati, only struck out 2 in that one though. A little bit mixed in terms of the output lately. The strikeouts have been down in the last couple of starts, except for the 7 strikeout outlier, but he gave up 5 runs that day. Overall, 22.2% strikeouts, 4.8% walks, a 4.17 ERA, 4.33 xFIP in 24 starts. Doesn't pitch overly deep into games, but an effective kid for the money. I think it's okay. I just hate the matchup. Even at these prices, I think I probably avoid Bryce Miller today, just given the nature of the Astros, how low strikeout they are, how high-powered and how good they are overall. It just seems better spots. He projects out fine. I do think he's playable, but he's a very low priority by comparison to some of the other starters. If you wanted to get away from, like, if Dunning and Canning are very, very chalky and you just wanted to get away from that, take somebody else with an equivalent projection from that middle, I do think Bryce Miller's your guy. In 150 lineups, if I was building out a full pool, I would have some, but it wouldn't be a lot. I respect the Astros too much. Jose Altuve up at the top, 61-42, 17 homers, 13 steals, and only 393 plate appearances for the superstar second baseman. Bregman, 51-34, very good price for a third baseman with 24 home runs. Plays every day, 707 plate appearances. Alvarez, a superstar, 30 home runs in only 479, 293 ISO, 171 WRC+. Does everything at the plate, 18% strikeouts, 13% walks, 52.4% hard hits, 18.3% barrels. A monster hitter from the left side. Kyle Tucker following him up. 29 homers, 29 steals. I feel like he's been stuck there for a minute. Let's get 30-30, Kyle. Come on. 233 ISO, 140 WRC+. Their second best player. Excellent outfielder. Jose Abreu, 3,800, 2,900, 17 homers, 141 ISO. We looked at him yesterday. Second half's been a lot better. September's been good. June, July, and September were his 3 good months this year. Michael Brantley, 4,300, 2,800. Very good price for a hitter like Brantley. 262, only getting on base 273 and creating runs 13% worse than average, but that's only in 44 plate appearances. We know who Michael Brantley is. Jeremy Pena, Mauricio Dubon, mix and match options in the middle infield. Martin Maldonado, a mix-in catcher with a little bit of sneaky power, 14 home runs in 394 plate appearances. If you get Jainer Diaz in the lineup, he's definitely an option at catcher, having a very strong year. Just this version of the lineup doesn't have him. Mariners side, J.P. Crawford. Excellent correlated scoring option at shortstop. Considering how thin shortstop is today, one of the better players at the position just overall. If you're looking at one-off, I wouldn't go away from J.P. Crawford. Even against Fromber, just the idea of getting on base a couple times, maybe you get involved in one of those 6-run games against Fromber and he scores 2 or 3 times. That's what J.P. Crawford does out there. 17 home runs of his own, but we're not really looking for too much power here. Julio, 6,200, 4,200, 31 homers, 36 steals. Another guy who could get involved without hitting the ball over the wall from this team. But then you get to Eugenio Teoscar, Cal Raleigh. Those guys more of a requirement to hit home runs, which is what gets ugly against Fromber. He definitely can be got. He's not invincible for home runs, but he's difficult to homer against. So it's kind of got a limiting impact on what this team looks to do out there. Not one of the pitchers I like to use this team against. Eugenio strikes out 30.9% of the time, 21 home runs. Teoscar 30.8, 26 home runs. Both of them at or above league average for run creation. 30 home runs for Cal Raleigh, 27.9% strikeouts. You get Dylan Moore mixed in here, hitting 5th oddly today. 3,100, 2,400. He's very cheap for DFS purposes, but he's not that good. 203, 295, 428. A 102 WRC+, 7 home runs, 7 steals, and 156 plate appearances. The counting stats are okay. The contact profile has been spectacular. 18.1% barrels, 43.4% hard hits. I just don't really buy it. 35.3% strikeouts to go with it. Ty France, cheap, capable, 251, 336, 365. Hit his 11th home run, but still going to fall short of the 20 he hit last year. And then Sam Haggerty, Jose Caballero. Caballero's another decent on-base guy that you can maybe wrap back around to the top of the lineup. 26 stolen bases, but a limited contributor overall, 2% worse than average. Haggerty, 4% worse than average in 99 plate appearances. Very cheap if you're going to this team, but I just don't think we go to this team all that often. Priority bats would be Julio, Crawford, and then the other power hitters. Gianni Oscar, Cal Raleigh. But if I'm going here, I'm kind of looking for some on-base skills, some speed, and then one of the power bats. Fromber, Astros bats, Bryce Miller, Mariners bats. First three are playable. Mariners bats a lot less playable. Travis says, if I'm correct, Moore hit a home run off of him last time out off of Fromber. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Like I said, he's given up some. Let's see. Is the game on the 18th? If it was the game on the 18th, Julio hit one and Mike Ford hit one. They did hit 2 home runs against him that day. Oh, my mistake. I'm looking at the Bryce Miller game log. Let me go back to that game for Fromber. That was... yeah, that one. Yep, Dylan Moore hit 2 home runs in that game. He was leading off that day. Only one of them against Fromber, but he hit a home run against him. Haggerty also hit a home run that day, but Fromber only gave up 1 home run, so I'm actually not sure which one of those he gave up. But out of the 3 home runs hit that day, Fromber only gave up 1 of them. So maybe it was to Moore, maybe it was to Haggerty. I'm not sure which. Nothing about that is predictive at all, of course. But yeah, there's any given slate, any one of these guys can hit a home run off of anybody. Is basically what we've gleaned from the last 2 minutes. Can you stop licking my hand? Would you just chill for 5 more minutes? Just chill. It's not even time for anything. Mamba says, I think edges like this give you that one value spot you need to take down large GPPs. What are we... talking about player incentives? Seager's making $32 million this year and $325 million. I think he'll manage if he doesn't win the batting title. Yeah, I do think edges for contract bonuses, stuff like that, can give value. The spot I actually think that's the most valuable for is either in NBA or NFL, specifically in NFL, where it's like, all right, this guy needs to get 100 yards in this game, and they're out of playoff contention. So this dude's going to carry the ball 30 times if he has to get his 100 yards today. So you can pick off situations like that a little bit back toward the end of the season. So yeah, any kind of true information where you can gain an edge like that, I totally agree, Mamba, is definitely valuable. That's why I like engaging with chat and hearing thoughts come in and things that I wouldn't necessarily consider. Anytime somebody just says, if shows elsewhere, somebody says something and it just gets dismissed or oh, you're an idiot, you're wrong, blah blah blah. I'm right. It's not the right way to go about this stuff. You have to take into account that there's shit you haven't thought of. That there's people out there that are winning and doing things differently. I'm always willing to consider stuff like that. I don't know how to quantify it necessarily, especially over the course of a season. If we were in May, I'd be like, all right, let's not talk contract incentives. But yeah, in a situation like that, there's a little bit of edge to be had there. Now, for baseball especially, just because the guy's trying to win the batting title doesn't necessarily mean he's going to go out there and go 4 for 5. There is that limitation. That's why I like it better for football, where it specifically ties to volume, where it's just literally like, all right, like I said, like they'll give the guy the ball 30 times. He might fail to get the 100 yards, but where we're all looking just for volume, you're still presumably going to book like 80, right? So it's just, it's a volume and ratios thing versus event based still at the end of the day. But yeah, there are advantages to that knowledge. Sean Manaea on the mound. Speaking of advantages, 6,000, 6,900. Projects out fairly well for the money. 26-point FanDuel projection. Pretty good. 25.3% strikeout rate over the course of the season. A 4.51 ERA. A 4.11 xFIP. Manaea was yanked from the regular starting role early in the season after struggling a little bit. Came out, succeeded in that bulk relief role. Got a lot of buzz about, he's better in bulk relief, yada yada. I was never totally convinced that if they had just left him in the starting rotation in a normal starter role, that he wouldn't have figured things out. He's back in the normal starter role now and has had 2 okay games and a very good game. At the Dodgers, he went 7, allowed only 3 hits, only struck out 2 in an odd little blip, but a 3-hitter at Los Angeles against that Dodgers team is pretty good for a lefty. At Colorado, he gave up 3 earned, only struck out 3. And as a lefty facing Colorado, you're looking for more than that, but still an okay Coors Field start in 5 1/3. 5 2/3 against the low strikeout Cleveland team, struck out 5, gave up 1 earned. Not bad. Before that, it was 3 innings, 3 1/3, 3 2/3, a lot of bulk relief work. Did have good strikeout games, though. 5, 6, a couple other 5s. 8 was the peak that I was remembering. That was all the way back on May 22nd in a bulk relief appearance. But 3 2/3, 8 strikeouts. There's premium strikeout upside in Sean Manaea on the right day. He has proven that over the course of time. For his career, 22% strikeout rate, but last year 23.2, year before 25.7. 2019 had a 27.5. Knows how to find his strikeouts. Going up against the Pods, not a safe matchup. You've obviously got 4 premium bats up here. We talked about them a little bit when we were hunting for a shortstop. 3 good shortstop options on the DK slate on this team. A little bit different configuration on FanDuel. Bogart's up top, 45.32. Great price, 283, 350, 441. Can he get to 290? Can he get 20 home runs and 20 steals? That'd be a pretty damn good season in the end. Fernando Tatis, 54.38. Prices are coming down. 25 home runs, 29 steals, a 116 WRC plus. Juan Soto, 2 home runs as our, or did he hit 2 or just 1? He was a home run pick yesterday. He came through as our home run pick. Let's put it that way. Had a good game. 11 stolen bases on the season, 35 homers, a 157 WRC plus, a 248 ISO, an absolute superstar hitter. Manny Machado, 4,900, 3,500. Cheap on DK, fairly priced on FanDuel. 30 home runs on the season, a 208 ISO, 114 WRC plus. Campusano, a capable catcher bat for 39.29. 7 home runs, giving us 319, 356, 491 so far. Created runs 34% better than average over his first 174 plate appearances. Very good player. Ha-Seong Kim, 45.31, having a career year. 17 homers, 36 steals, a 113 WRC plus. It's kind of amazing this team's not as good as they should be, or has been as bad as they have been. However that should be said. Cooper, Batten, Azokar, kind of mix and match options at the bottom of the lineup. Batten's been interesting. 113 WRC plus and 125 plate appearances. 2 homers, a 111 ISO. Not a lot of power there, but he's cheap as a mix and match part. Maybe you use him, wrap him back around to the top. 363 on base. Supports the idea that he's a functional wraparound. And then Matt Waldron. Want to make sure I haven't missed anything of note with Mr. Waldron here. 5 2/3 last time out. 9 strikeouts. That's pretty good. 5 strikeouts in 5 1/3 the game before that. Overall, 19.5% strikeouts, 4.58 ERA, 4.62 xFIP. A lot of home runs despite only 86 miles an hour of exit velo. Big launch angle, fairly hard hit. That's a weird average exit velocity given the barrels and the hard hit rate and the home run output. Interesting. Yeah, not a great option. What did he do minors-wise with strikeouts? He's also 27, so anything that I'm about to cite from the minors, take with a grain of salt. 23.8% strikeout rate at AAA this year in 18 starts as a 27-year-old. Just trying to find a way to angle into it going up against the Giants and their 24.9% strikeout rate for the very cheap price. I just don't see it. I think the strikeouts are probably pretty limited. It seems like that last game was a little bit more of an outlier strikeout-wise. Overall, 8.1% swinging strikes so far in 35 and a third innings in the show, 24.7% CSW. All the power he's given up. Probably leads me toward a little bit more on the Giants side of things. They rank out okay in the home run model, but they rank only actually 11th in the home run model. A couple guys in the middle, but then some low-end ones. Dragged down by a 0 by Tyler Fitzgerald, which isn't actually a 0. Just needs a fix. 9th by value on FanDuel, 8th by value on DK. They're kind of a mixer stack. I greatly prefer the Twins when we're talking about like similar kind of lineups, cheap with a little bit of upside, a little bit of power. I like the Twins for their flexibility of position and just better players up and down. But Lamont Wade is good. 374 on base, 17 home runs, a 123 WRC plus. Had a better stretch of like 2 or 3 months early in the season that kind of floated all the numbers overall. But he is a pretty good player, draws 14.6% walks, doesn't strike out that much, hits the ball fairly hard from the left side. Yaz for 3,700, 2,900, 15 home runs at 218 ISO. Wilmer for 4,000, 2,900 at multi-position on both sites. 22 home runs to lead the team. 223 ISO also leads the team. A 135 WRC plus. Guess what? That also leads the team. Good year from Wilmer. Jock Peterson, 38, 26, very cheap for his home run potential from the left side. 12.1% barrels, 53.2% hard hits. Tyro, 4,300, 3,100 across sites, multi-position on FanDuel. 13 homers, 22 steals, only a 101 WRC plus. Probably should be hitting up here where they have Yaz in this projected. Move Yaz down to 5th. You don't want to necessarily back these two hitters up, but you can figure that out. Maybe you drop Wilmer, let Yaz hit 3rd, or move Conforto to 3rd, drop Wilmer to cleanup. Peterson down to 5th. You can go lefty-lefty, 5th, 6th. Conforto, 33-28, 243, 338, 390. Not exactly the hitter that we remember, but a little bit of lefty power. Probably next year will be the year that he truly bounces back. Luciano, Bailey, Fitzgerald, limited options at the bottom of the lineup. 122 WRC plus in 34 for Luciano, and 122 WRC plus in 20 for Fitzgerald so far. Home run on the board for Fitzgerald. 346 plate appearances for Pat Bailey. Just keeps on sinking after that hot start. Hit all 7 of those home runs in like the first 2 weeks. Limited options up and down for the Giants, but good matchup against Waldron. Sean Manaea, Padres bats, Giants bats. I don't think we need any Waldron. You could throw a few darts if you're building 150. For 7,000, you could throw a few darts. Don't really like it on the FanDuel slate. Very limited, though. I'm not advocating for it, not endorsing it. Just saying that it's not completely off the board. Adolis Garcia was the home run pick of the day up on the site, Mamba. Mamba locked Acuna last night, it sounds like, instead of going to Soto. Could have picked one off there. Dustin, struggling to decide on SP2 for DraftKings single entry. Well, I'll tell you what, since we're up here, 609. Wow, that last chunk of the show flew by. Since we're here at the end of the show, though, we can talk about that real quick. So, really like the option with Sean Manaea. I expect he's going to be popular, but that's your biggest strikeout upside option in terms of the very cheap SP2s. I think Zach Thompson is interesting, especially given that Milwaukee lineup. No Christian Yelich. There's a couple hitters up top I like, but there's upside for days in that lineup. 5,900 across sites. Definitely on the board, more particularly as an SP2 on DK in the extreme discount range. And then you have the mid-range options. Jose Barrios belongs more in the conversation with these guys on, talent track record. Not quite there. That's why he's priced a little bit higher than these other guys. Canning and Dunning facing one another, potentially limited versions of the lineups on the Texas side if Seager doesn't go. Definitely a more limited Angels lineup. Either one of these guys is on the board in the mid-range for an SP2 share. So I would be happy to take either one of them if you've got the money. But I think these guys are equally good plays, potentially better plays. Manaea potentially at least equals the strikeout potential of Canning and Dunning, if not exceeding it. And he comes a lot cheaper. Thompson probably a little bit lower end overall, but even cheaper than Manaea. And then you get Bryce Miller here in just a really bad matchup. But if you wanted to get away from, like, if Canning and Dunning were chalky, if Sean Manaea picked up a ton of ownership, and if you don't like Zach Thompson, then Bryce Miller's your guy. I just hate the matchup against the Astros. Like the pitcher a lot, hate the matchup. But it's a very stark board today. Top three, very obvious. Jose Berrios kind of on talent and on price floating a little bit on his own between tiers. But the projection, I think he's in the right spot in terms of this list. And then Canning, Manaea, Thompson, Dunning, and Miller are your SP2 / value pool. Everybody down here I don't want. I think out of everybody, probably Miley and Waldron are the two most defensible plays. Waldron on the idea of just a shaky overall San Francisco lineup with a decent amount of strikeouts in it, but I don't really think that's going to come true. And then Wade Miley just on facing such a weird lower end version of the Cardinals lineup. But again, I don't think that's going to come through. Vic David put it much more succinctly. Manaea. I could have just said that, but we got to talk about everybody. But yeah, if I was building it and I only had one shot, I'd probably go that Manaea route. I am somewhat intrigued by Zach Thompson at the 100 less, though. If that 100 buys me something, I wouldn't be against the idea of taking Thompson instead of Manaea. Let's put it that way. And that was kind of the pitching breakdown. Same thing goes for FanDuel. These are your top guys. These are your value guys. And nothing in between. Pretty straightforward slate. Home run board. Obviously, all the Dodgers are at the top because they're playing in Coors Field. Oh, shit. I just sorted that by the wrong column. Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers. Aaron Judge. Matty Olson. Corey Seager, if he plays. Dodgers. Jordan Alvarez. Adolis Garcia, today's pick of the day. Ronnie Acuna. Tatis. Stanton. Riley and Albies from the Braves. So it's Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers. A blip from the Yankees, Braves. Blip from the Rangers, Dodgers. Blip from the Astros. Blip from the Rangers, Braves. Braves, Braves, Braves. A couple guys mixed in between. There's a decent amount. How many guys do we have over? Assuming everybody plays, 19 guys over the magic number. Not a bad day for power considering how decent the pitching is. But it's really, again, it's just, top half, bottom half. Power showing against all these guys. Less so against all those guys. Might be a very specifically oriented day in terms of where public ownership falls, which is something to think about when you're building lineups. You make a couple small decisions that get you a little bit away from the chalkiest of chalk. Jake loves Sheehan tonight. Might lock button him. As I said, you can do Coors Field. You do what you do at Coors Field. Play it the way you like to play it. But boy, oh boy, that's definitely taking your balls and dropping them on the table. That's for sure. Mamba says, thanks. Loading up on Twins bats with Garcia then. I might fall to something similar in my construction. Got to get that lineup built, but we're only building one today. Just going to drop it into... I'll throw it into the main tournament as well, of course. But I'll play that bigger one on FanDuel. With that in mind, gang, it's basically about it. Chuck says, even though the pitcher changed and it turned into a bullpen game, what do we... Not sure. Oh, how chaotic was all the... had to pivot out of all the Harrison shares that I had. I assume that's who you're talking about there. That one would have come through. I love that spot. I had a lot of Harrison that I had to get out of after he scratched. And then, not a lot, but just annoying shares of like Marlins and Mets in a bunch of different lineups that I had to pivot out of after that game PPD'd. So annoying because the RG optimizer, even when that game unlocks, it's still locked on the RG optimizer, so you can't actually get in there and switch it. So to make grand changes if a game goes postponed on FanDuel, you gotta sit there and do it in a CSV, or you're just doing it via like the late swap utility, which is just a totally shitty way to do it. So it's really annoying. Vic says my balls dropped a long time ago. Go get him, buddy. All right, guys. I think that's about it. Gonna get back to work on getting football done. We'll have projections and rankings initial cut up overnight. We'll do something for football tomorrow in terms of the main slate, for sure. Not just saying it this week. Wasn't just saying it the last times either, but this time I feel good about actually getting it done. And then we'll definitely be back for the showdown slate for football tomorrow night, and we'll have projections up for that. Not 100% sure what it's gonna look like with baseball tomorrow. Haven't checked the schedule. I assume it's a short day like usual on Thursdays. But we'll see what we do. There will be content at the very worst. So with that, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. I'll see you around. Good luck out there. Somebody go win something.